2017 will go down in the annals of South African conservation history as the moment when a giant awakened. When 5 Zulu chiefs, awakens, agreed to donate and thereby unlock some 16,000 hectares of largely untouched African bushveld for the development of a new ecotourism industry in South Africa, in the heart of Zululand within the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Its conceptualization is built on the belief that the existing historic game reserve, Umfolozi Park, can be substantially enlarged by fusing this traditional land with this park, and in doing so, help establish new wildlife corridors that will ultimately see this preliminary 16,000 hectares balloon into some 60,000 hectares, as more and more chiefs express their willingness to participate. Its appeal is as exciting as it is real.
This is an ancient landscape, arguably the most important conservation landscape on the African continent. The DNA of every white rhino that we have now in Africa comes from the confluence of the white and the black Umfolozi, comes from the very land that we are talking about now expanding again. And that is what excites me. This iconic conservation land now has another opportunity through expansion and through its neighbors to become part of a new protected area. And as this grows, this model, I believe, is critical and the only way we're going to grow the conservation footprint in Africa.
In a world where natural areas are either shrinking or experiencing growing developmental pressures, this Big Five development, named after the original 5 chiefs who initiated it, is bucking the global trend, as it promises to not only dramatically expand the wildlife footprint of this region, but also unveil the extraordinary cultural and wildlife history within which it is situated.
This linking of the natural and the cultural attractions creates a unique situation which you have nowhere else in Africa. The cultural landscapes in Africa have disappeared, but here you have the birthplace of a nation and you have it together in a natural setup, which is absolutely unique.
If there's one person who is acutely and proudly aware of this fusion of culture and natural landscape, then it is Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the traditional Prime Minister to the monarch of the Zulu nation, King Goodwill Zwelithini. Aside from his royal status, Prince Buthelezi has been a celebrated patron of various nature conservation bodies since the old days of his position as the Chief Minister of the erstwhile KwaZulu government. He has a long track record of advocacy in the sphere of nature conservation.
I'm very proud of the fact that our people, the Zulu people for whom I've served for more than 60 years, have realized that how important to combine culture and identity. Culture sits very well with conservation.
Prince Buthelezi's recognition of this fusion, of combining the protection of the natural landscape and its animals with the economic upliftment of people, are distinctive characteristics that have been supported by critical stakeholders, such as the regional conservation body Izimvelo KZN Wildlife. Former manager of the Umfolozi Park, Jabulani Ingubani, spoke of his organization's thrill at the unfolding of what has been held as a long-lost dream.
What is unbelievable about this land is that it's rich in 3 dimensions: culturally, biodiversity, and then historical. I'm very, very excited about this big development. You know, when people say a dream come true, to me it's like that in conservation. When are we starting building lodges, fencing the land into conservation? So you know what it does that for me, automatically in terms of biodiversity, it increases the habitat black rhino, which is our target. So I've got a bigger target in terms of our black rhino conservation. But what it does, it smoothens the relationship we have with the awakens.
More significantly, the Big Five project is being viewed as a means to unlock and expand the country's tourism scope, wildlife and cultural, the opportunity to open critical wildlife migratory corridors has genuinely excited the South African government.
The Big Five contributes significantly to the government's protected area expansion strategy, which offers corridors for your migratory animals like your wild dogs, elephants, rhino, that needs protection and needs the greater areas. So the expansion of mFulaWozi through this Big Five project is one of the things that have really excited our government.
Buka le ndawo yethu esihlala kuyo ukuthi inhle kangakanani. Kade sihlala kuyona isikhathi eside. Sihlala nazo ilwane lezi. Ngalesi sikhathi inomlando le ndawo. uShaka wayehlale khona la. Bathi sifuna ukuthi manje siyisebenzise ukuthi isiza abantu bethu.
The Big Five dates back to 2010, when Nkosi Biela aired his dream with his friend Barry Tunison of making a game reserve out of a portion of his traditional landholdings. He saw South Africa's unique wildlife and ecotourism industry as the engines that would not only drive a greater conservation footprint, but more importantly, help create employment and income for his Biela community. This, and the belief that this land is only suitable for wildlife and tourism, has proven to be the overriding thrust of sustainability that characterizes the very motivation for the Big Five.
It was my father's dream that one day he would like to have a conservation there. Our land is best for tourism and conservation. It will uplift the life of my people forever. I wish the Big Five to be well successful.
For his part, Barry Tunison speaks of the trust the awakens and his family have forged over the years.
When we started with the awakens, the local chiefs, there had to be an element of trust. And we gained that trust. And that goes back in history. With my grandfather, they farmed in the vicinity, and my father. And there was a long dealing with our family and the chiefs. And that has gained the trust and enabled myself to implement their wishes of developing this environmental node that would employ their people and preserve the historic area and earn an income from it with a tourism node.
Sifisa ukuthi nakwamanye amakhosi ingene ngoba inhloso ukuthi siqeda indlala. Lokhu kungumsebenzi wethu singamakhosi sonke. Sifuna imisebenzi, abantu bethu bathola umsebenzi okubalulekile. Ngamanye amagama sifuna the long-term solution.
The nearest airport at Ulundi has just had a 35 million rand upgrade and lies only 15 kilometers from the entrance to the Big Five. And new roads have recently been constructed too. The exhilaration surrounding this change in traditional thinking and the wholesale endorsement of the Big Five from all quarters gives way to perhaps the project's greatest secret, its location. There can be no more historic region in Africa's entire conservation landscape than right here. Within its greater outreach, the Big Five will encompass the former hunting grounds of the Zulu nation's first king, King Shaka, who in the late 18th century earmarked this specific region for hunting, and in doing so conserved this land for some 8 months of the year for the protection of the endemic game. It's an extraordinary coincidence that, given this historic context, in 1894 Umfolozi Park became the first game reserve to be proclaimed in Africa. And the reason for this lies in the fact that this is the birthplace of the southern white rhino, a species once brought to the brink of extinction, when in the 19th century colonial hunters slaughtered them mercilessly. It's moving to think that every southern white rhino you have in the world today can trace its ancestry back to this very region in Zululand. And we can thank two of the world's greatest conservators, Dr. Ian Player and mFulaWozi Ntombela, who, amongst many others, were formative in saving the species from extinction. In 1963, in what was called Operation Rhino, they captured, anesthetized, and reinstated the last remaining 50 rhinos found in southern Africa. For the benefit of humanity and to safeguard this prime rhino territory, Dr. Player pioneered the creation of Africa's first wilderness area, this being the 33,000 hectares of the Umfolozi section of this mFulaWozi Park, right on the doorstep of the Big Five. In dedication to all wilderness areas, Dr. Player founded the Wilderness Leadership School. It is one of South Africa's most enduring natural legacies that some 53 years on remains one of the most popular wilderness trail operations, both in South Africa and globally.
I've been working for 16 years in wilderness area. People, they don't understand how good is this, what the chief's doing to everybody who's allowed to come, international, South African tourists, everybody's allowed to come. I'm so excited.
A new brand was created, mFulaWozi Wilderness, and it's the land between the black and the white, mFulaWozi. Biela Lodge is named after the local chief and is an oasis of private and eco-luxury. The lodge nestles in the hillside, perfectly positioned to take in sweeping views of the lush floodplains of the white mFulaWozi below. "15 kilometers downstream, on the banks of the White mFulaWozi, lies Mthembu Lodge. This is also named after the local chief and is right on the edge of the wilderness.
Unearthing the exceptional. These words illustrate something else, something particularly special, that lies behind the ultimate rollout of the Big Five. Something that historians, academics, and conservationists alike have dreamed and motivated for ages. The establishment of South Africa's next World Heritage Site. For decades, it's appeared logical that mFulaWozi Park can be linked with the birthplace of the Zulu nation, at eMakhosini, the Valley of the Kings on the outskirts of Ulundi. Now, with the onset of the Big Five, the dream is finally becoming a reality.
This mFulaWozi Big Five Game Reserve is being developed in an area that is steeped in Zulu history and culture, and there's absolutely no reason why that down the line this could become a cultural World Heritage Site, which will have unbelievable spin-off for the region as a whole.
This Big Five development is arguably the most important project in conservation in Africa today.
As it stands today, is just one part in a bigger pot which we call the Greater Umfolozi Node. This includes your Opate game reserves. It includes your Amakosini area. This is where your greater Zulu kings are buried. I tell you, that's your South African World Heritage Site right there.
A place of history, a place of culture, a place of vast untapped swathes of African wildlife expanse, on a scale that few could imagine opening up in the 21st century. The Umfolozi Big 5 Game Reserve development is certainly exceptional.
Vele